here. I'm back with another video. This is the start of all my pre-recorded videos for the month of September because September is normally really a chaotic month for me because I go back to school, but I still want to have a lot of content for you guys, so I'm trying to pre-record as many videos as I can. And actually good news for you guys because I actually got a lot of books over the summer and I'm going to make that the focus of a lot of my videos. So let's get into it. The first topic for today's video is from the Artsy Reader Girl, her Top 10 Tuesday, and this week's topic was books that you enjoyed outside your comfort zone. I tend to be a very strict reader. I tend to read only YA, some middle grade, and no adult. That's kind of and I tend to read a lot of fantasy and a lot of contemporary. Those are the two genres that I tend to go back and forth on. But these books just were books that I didn't necessarily always read, or genres that I didn't necessarily read, that I actually wound up really enjoying. And due to some of these reads, I wound up picking up a bunch of books for the future. So let's get into it. The first book series that I am going to chat about is Keeper of the Lost Cities Everblaze, and I actually really wound up really enjoying this series. And I am known as the middle grade girl in my group of friends. Whenever people go to conventions, I get a ton of middle grade books because I like to read them, or at least collect them. I don't always read them as much as I should, but now that I'm working with a lot of middle grade students, hopefully that will change. But this series just really blew my mind. I've been reading a book a month since about May. But it's been just a really enjoyable experience. I know every book series and their mother wants to be compared to Harry Potter. I personally have never found a series that really gave me those feels like Harry Potter, but I will say this book comes really, really close. You follow this girl named Sophie, who's kind of like an anomaly in the elven world. She finds out she's an elf, and it kind of opens this world. Every book follows a smaller mystery, but then there's a big overarching mystery that I'm really invested in. These books are massive. These books are close to 600 pages each. And it's just such a fast-paced read that I'm really enjoying. And definitely when I'm done with this series, I am going to move on and read a couple of other middle grade series. But this is the first one that captured my attention. And I captured it so much so that I'm continually reading them on a monthly basis. The next book that kind of took me out of my comfort zone a little bit was The Storm Crow by Kayla Josephine. And I don't know, I just went into this book not really expecting anything, but it dealt with a lot of interesting topics. It was a political themed novel. It was a fantasy novel. But it was just a very, very unique, it was like a setting I've never read before, like a tropical fantasy novel. And I just really, really liked it. I thought that the presence of crows were really interesting. I thought the world building was really interesting. I don't know if I necessarily would have picked it up if a friend hadn't told me to pick it up right then. But I really liked it. I'm definitely going to be checking out book 2. I thought the world building was so interesting, and I was really excited that I wound up picking it up. And I will definitely try to read more tropical themed books in the future. The next book that I wound up picking up that kind of surprised me was Tarnished Are the Stars by Rosie Thor. This book doesn't actually come out yet. This book comes out in October, and I think I'm definitely going to wind up doing a giveaway for this book, and I'm going to probably post it before I go back to school, so keep a nose out for that. But this was a standalone science fiction novel, and I have such a hard time finding science fiction novels that I really, really love. This one definitely captured my attention and had me peek my nose up and be like, who? But I read it and dealt with a lot of political issues. It followed 3 characters. It followed Anna, who has a mechanical heart, Nathaniel, who's the son of a commissioner who also has a mechanical heart, and this society is very against technology, and then Eliza, who is supposed to be married to Nathaniel, who's a spy. This book was really, really well crafted. I thought it was a very, very solid standalone, which I don't read a lot of. I tend to be very invested in series, but I actually wound up really liking this book, and I thought that it was a really solid standalone. I thought it was a science fiction novel that was really fascinating to read and really compelling, and I would definitely read more by this author in the future, but it was just a really, really fun read, a very, very fast-paced read as well. The next book I'm going to chat about is a nonfiction book, and I don't read nonfiction that often, honestly. I don't get around to it, but this book really did pique my interest, and it's called Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. That wrote Eat, Pray, Love, and it's called Big Magic: Creative Living Through Fear. And I am a theater teacher. I'm an artist in a lot of ways, and I just thought this book was so well done. I really loved how she really told her own story, but also gave you very, very practical advice. And I remember reading it when I was just about to start directing my first show ever, and I thought it was a very like interesting memoir slash how-to book, and I really wound up enjoying it. And I definitely want to read her other books in the future. I know she's deviated a little bit and wrote some historical fiction novels as well, and there's some more that are about her life. But yeah, it was a nice, like, easy read, and I actually wound up having like a physical copy and an audiobook. So it was a really enjoyable read, and one that I don't think I would have read necessarily, but it was a how-to book that I thought that was actually really successful, and I would actually recommend it if you're stuck in like a creative rut or trying to find something new to occupy your time. I thought it was a very like enjoyable but also like informative read as well. The next book I'm going to chat about is The Cinderella Jeff by Shanlin Sladen, or yeah, Shanlin Sladen, I think it is. Pronounced Shania Sladen. And this book actually did go through a really, really big cover change. So the one that I had was the girl with the dress, but they have a bunch of different covers for this book now. But this is the first historical fiction book that I've read, probably in a good like 10 years. And I actually, from this, I wound up picking up a couple of more historical fiction books, and you'll see those guys in a future book haul that I wound up picking up, and hopefully I'm going to read them soon. But this book just was a really interesting take on historical fiction. Set I think in World War One or I think it was World War Two. It was set during, and it just followed this girl, and she was the keeper of Cinderella's dresses, and there was like an evil stepsisters, and they were trying to like get the dresses back, and it had some magic, like hints of magical elements, but then not really. And I thought it was just really interesting. I love seeing her as a girl in that time period and all the things that she was dealing with. She had really interesting family dynamics. I just really wound up really liking it. I wound up giving it like a good 3.5, 4 stars, and I will definitely wind up checking out Cinderellas Shoes soon because there's a sequel. And then checking out a couple more historical fiction novels that are on my TBR that I got because I really wound up enjoying this book. The next book that was definitely outside my comfort zone was The Starless Tea by Erin Morgenstern. I said this before, I don't always read adult books just because it takes a lot of like mental energy to prepare myself to read them, and I can be a little bit distracted during the school year. But I heard so many amazing things about Erin Morgenstern's writing that I dived right into this book and actually wound up really, really liking it. This book does not come out until November, and I would probably wind up going back and reading The Night Circus, but I really liked it. It's just a book about book lovers, and I was really impressed with the world building. I thought there was a lot of interconnection storylines. It's a book you really need to focus on though. It's kind of like a book I'm going to talk about later in this video, but there was just a lot of like world building and a lot of characters. And it was basically told in a bunch of different point of views and a bunch of different stories, but I really wound up liking it, and I'm definitely going to consider reading her past books. But it was just a book that really made me think after the end, and like, what is the end of the story, and what is the real storyline, who is the hero in the story, and it just was so well crafted. So I highly recommend you pick up this book when it comes out in November, because it was definitely probably the most interesting book that I wound up reading this year. I'm going to talk about is The Real Life by Jen Wang and her writing partner. But the book that really got me into reading graphic novels was The Princess and the Dressmaker by Jen Wang. These two books were just very different, but very, very compelling to read. I love Princess and the Dressmaker because it just had such cute writing style, and it was just such a cute, fun romance, and I just was really invested in that. But this book, like The Real Life, dealt with like, you know, in topics about like economics and like working together, and like it was such like an interesting way to tell a story based about economic principles, and I never really read a book like that. I think it'd be great in like an economics class, like in college or like even like high school, because I felt like it dealt with like such hard topics that you never see in books, but like in a really like fun way. So that was like the take for like the Real Life, which I wound up really liking. But I definitely love Princess and the Dressmaker. If you like romantic books, or like, you know, romance, I would highly recommend that book because it was just so cute. It like brought a tear to my eye. It really made me cry. I think I read it twice back to back. And that was kind of me trying to read more graphic novels, and I'm still trying to get better at it, and I have a bunch on my TBR. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on The Princess and the Dressmaker and In Real Life by Jen Wang and her writing partner for the second one. That I wound up reading that kind of took me out of my comfort zone a little bit was Granted by John David Anderson. I cannot tell you the last time I wrote a book that had like an animal main character. Like, it was just so charming. Like, so charming. It was just so nice to be in, like, an animal's head and just be in, like, the world. I thought that the world building was so well crafted, though, for, like, a middle grade book. It just was so fun. But it just dealt with, like, harder issues, but, like, as, like, a little fairies being the main character. I thought it was just so cute. And I flew through, I think I read for this for book 2, but then... Yeah, I read this one for the reading rushathon, like, a while ago. Um, but I wound up really liking it, and I definitely want to reading more books by him in the future, or just reading more books about like fairies in like middle grade. Like I don't know why I never thought about reading that, but it definitely was like a charming read that definitely like captured my attention. So another book that another type of books that I will definitely add to my TBR in the future. What I'm going to chat about is the Camelot Code series. This is book 2. This is called Geeks and the Holy Grail. And I actually wound up really, really liking this series. It's been the first series I read in a while that had to do with like Arthurian legend, but set like in a middle grade world, and I thought it was really, really fun. I really loved the second book. I read the second book recently, and the first book was just so fun, and I just really liked a nice adventure series. But I hadn't read anything like Arthurian in like a while, so it was a nice callback to that. I was such a big fan of Merlin back in the day. This is definitely like a different series, but it was just so fun. There was a baby dragon. It dealt with the Holy Grail. This one did. The first one dealt with them like getting time swapped and mixed identities. It was just really, really fun. So if you're looking maybe for like, or maybe your kids are learning about, maybe you're a teacher, you're teaching Arthurian myths, or you're teaching King Arthur, this would be a great like a side book to read to your class, because I thought that especially the first one, I think it tackled a lot of those characters in kind of a fun, unique way. So chat about in this video is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This book does not come out in October, and everyone is dying to get their hands on it. I really did wind up liking it. I didn't love it, but you know what? It was definitely like a book that took me out of my comfort zone, because it was like a paranormal novel set in the adult world. It dealt with a lot of harder topics. There's a lot of trigger warnings on this book. I will say that if you have any like potential issues, or like issues with like rape or sexual assault or drugs, would not read this book, because there's a lot of issues. But it really reminded me of like a grown-up Shadowhunters world that dealt with like the mystical and the macabre, and it had like a school setting, and it was just really, really interesting. Alex was not the most likable character I ever read, but it was a very, very compelling read, and I will hopefully try to dive into some more paranormal adult reads in the future, because this was really, really well crafted. So let me know in the comments what are some books that like you read that were outside your comfort zone recently. Because of these books and the subtle books I have been reading, I really want to dive out of my comfort zone a little bit more in the upcoming months, and I'll definitely keep you guys apprised of that as I read them. But let me know in the comments what are some books that you read outside of your comfort zone, and we'll have a discussion in the comments, and I'll talk to you guys next week for another video.